call you Sherry or Andy?
Andy.
Okay. I'm here today with Andy Clarke, who was an artilleryman in World War II. We're here at the Canton Woods Senior Center, thanks to their hospitality. I'm David Tyler, the editor of The Messenger, and we're going to talk a little bit about his war experience. Andy, where did you grow up, and what did you do before the war?
I was born in Port Barn and moved to Syracuse in 1936, worked for Crucible Steel wire mill on Emerson Avenue until I got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
I got drafted in April '41 and went to Fort Jackson and took basic there in a horse-drawn field artillery. And at that time there was no trucks, no tanks, nothing.
Nothing.
Just horses, horse-drawn. And from Fort Jackson we moved to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And well, we were there for a year and a half or so. And we were sent to Camp Cook, California. And at Fort Sill, they took the horses, got rid of the horses, and gave us trucks. So we took the caissons behind the back of the trucks and the ammunition in the trucks, and we went to California. And after we got to Camp Cook, they sent us to Needles, California for desert training with our first tank.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little thing. And we spent, I don't know how many weeks there, training with the desert. Well, after that, they sent us to Tennessee for mountain training with tanks, and we got different tanks. And so we trained in the mountains down there, and then they sent us to what was Pine Camp in New York State for winter training. So we came up here, did our winter training with different tanks.
They kept you moving around, huh?
Oh, I was all over. And then they sent us to Indian Town Camp to be shipped overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And we left the States in February, landed in England, and stayed there until the invasion. And because we were tanks and we had to wait for the beaches to be partially
clear. Right.
And so when we landed on the fourth day of the invasion with our tanks, but we were still under bombardment, you know. And I can't remember landing on the beach. I think I was so scared or something, I don't know what, but I don't remember going up on until I got up on the hedgerow on this farm. Mm-hmm. That's when I came out of the blackout. And then we crossed France and into Belgium and Holland. And we were part of the shelling of Aachen, Germany, which was the first German city to be captured, as far as I can recall. And my position over there was battalion supply. I had to take my truck and go back and forth to supplies for food and the mail. And I was supposed to be in convoy, but nobody told me, so I went back and forth
by yourself
with my corporal driver, and we made out all right, but we were almost captured in France, and the French underground stopped us and took us around
The back way.
the back around the city where the tanks were that was left behind for Germans. The infantry and the rest of it had already passed through there, but when I went back, there was still some tanks that hadn't been destroyed. So then in Belgium one day, we were coming back from the supply depot, and we got strafed by an airplane, and we could see the bullets
In the ground,
hitting the road and everything. My corporal, he jumped out of the truck, didn't turn it off or nothing, and jumped out of the truck to take cover, and so I had to turn it off. And when I got out of the truck, after the plane had gone past, they didn't hit us. They just hit the shoulders of the road. And so I called for him, and I heard him holler, "I'm over here. Where are you?" You know, he had gotten over a 6-foot cement wall around a big barnyard. And he don't remember how he got over it or nothing. And he couldn't find his way out. So I had to go around the barnyard and find a gate for him to come out. And I thought that was really something. But he was so scared that he just jumped right out, you know. So then we went on into the Hurricane Forest, and we were up there that winter when this Battle of Bulge started, and I had to go back to the supply depots. About every 3 days I had to go back and forth. Well, we were going down this one road, and we'd been down it several times, and we got to the bridge over a small stream. The bridge wasn't there anymore. So I said, we'll go down around and to the stream and get on the other side. We got on the other side of the stream, and there was about 6 Germans dead in the road. So two American soldiers come up, and they said that they were on machine gun guarding the bridge at night when the bridge blew up.
And they just didn't, it just
So they started firing, and they killed these Germans and wounded some other ones. And one of the Germans was ready to throw the hand grenade that they have on the end of a stick like this. It exploded before he got rid of it, and it blew his head right off. Oof. And it made me sick to see all that stuff.
Sure.
It was my first experience of seeing so much of it. And so I was on my way to the depot, and the two soldiers and 2 others that were behind a building there came up, and they said, "Please tell somebody to come and relieve us." Nobody had come around, you know. So when I got to the depot, I told them about it, and they sent help back to them. And the soldiers, the Germans that weren't killed, went back down the ravine dragging some of the wounded, you know. But if they hadn't blown that bridge first, they might have got the guards, you know.
Sure.
So we got back to that. About 3 days later, I went back again to the depot, and I got my supplies, and went back to the battalion. And when I got back to the battalion, they said, "When did you leave the supply depot?" And I said, "Oh, about 4 hours ago." They said, "Well, it's been captured and wiped out." I said, "Oh, I got out of there
You got out of there right in time,
you know."
yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Well, that's when the bulge started. They come up around behind us.
Sure.
And so I got out of that way. And so I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones. Then we finished our tour right into Germany, if you want to call it a tour. And we were stopped at the Rhine, the Seine River, I think it was, the Rhine River.
Rhine River.
And told to stay there until the Russians took Berlin. So it was that we watched the German people in mobs, just like cattle, trying to get across that river, get away from the Russians, because they'd rather surrender to us than to surrender to them. So we took as many as we could, and our scout plane flew across the river to take the guns and stuff from the surrenders. There were so many guns they couldn't take off with them all. They were
too heavy.
So I saw Germans holding on to the wood or anything they get to try to swim across that river to get away from being
captured.
Yeah. So then the war ended, and I was assigned our outfit was assigned to be occupation until October. And so we were occupation troops in Wackerode, Germany, until October. And then I was sent back to France to come back home. So I got home in late October.
And came right back here?
I came right back to Amboy over here. So I was living there at the time. And
how did it feel to come back home after all of that?
Oh, at that time, the Amboy airport was still there. Well, every time a plane took off, I went under the tables, It was terrifying, So I got over that after a while, and started looking for work, and I didn't find any work for about 6 months. And then I went to work for Carrier Corporation, and I worked for them for a little over a year, and they laid me off. So I went back in the reserves, and I served a year in New York City at the Brooklyn Army Base as a supply man for troops there. And I spent 1 year there, and wasn't crazy about New York City, but
not many are.
And while I was there one Sunday morning, I got a phone call from a general in Washington, D.C. Oh, I don't know, what do they want me for, I called them up, and they had received a request from family of Harry Nicholson, he was killed in Wallendorf, Germany, on September 19th of 44. They wanted me to be the escort for his body, which was just being returned to the States in 1948. And so I had to travel to Atlanta, Georgia, and take a course in procedures, and then I met the family, and
I'm sorry.
And met the family, and I had visited them once before because they were worried about his suffering at the time he was killed. And so I explained to him that there was no suffering. He was removed the same day he was killed, and he was buried in one of the cemeteries in Belgium. And so then I got discharged from the reserves, came back to Syracuse, got a job with the Syracuse Developmental Center, which was the New York State School at the time. And I worked there for 32 years. And, in 1950, I went back to South Carolina where Harry Nicholson was from and married his sister, brought her to New York. Well, she liked New York fine, but she didn't like the winters. So we were married for 43 years. She passed away. And now I worked part-time as a bus driver in West Tennessee for 20 years while I was still working at the state school. And then I retired from the state school after 32 years. And I worked at the bus garage for 20 years as a driver. And I retired from that when I became 65. And then the same year I retired from there, they decided they needed aides on handicap buses. So I took that job, and I'm still doing it.
Good.
So I've been over there 32 years working with the students at West Tennessee.
Well, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your stories with us. You have an interesting story. And we're lucky to have people like you that went over and fought for
I
us.
was lucky to get out of it like I did. And very thankful.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
You're off.